honor the memory of Peggy today. As we think of life and the relationships that we build in life and the length of life, we somehow think that long life is a trophy, and we don't know how long life would be here on this earth. 86 seems like a good long time when you're a teenager, right? It's getting closer to me all the time, and it doesn't seem quite that long. In fact, there was a day when I was in grade school that I thought when my dad turned 40, I was very sad because I told my teacher he was a very old man. But I've changed my opinion on that. Thank you, each of you, for coming here this afternoon. We've a lot of times talk about these times as a celebration of life, and I like that concept. We know that we're here because a death has taken place, right? And somebody's life here on this earth has been completed, and as we celebrate Peggy's life today, we recognize that that has been the case. But the fact that she lived and that she contributed to life in one way or another, and each of you have your memories, which we'll give you an opportunity to share a little bit later on in the service as well as you would like. That is the important thing today. And it's always sad when we have to say goodbye to those that we love. Isn't this a gorgeous picture up here? When would that have been? Is that a painting? I didn't look real closely at it.
From New Orleans.
It's from New Orleans. Beautiful. And it was
probably in the 70s.
Probably in the 70s. But I think that's the way we like to remember her, with that smile on her face and the joy of relationships that we have. The psalmist put it this way in the 90th Psalm, and I like the way he puts it, for he starts it off by saying that throughout all the changing times in life, you, O God, have been our home. For even before the mountains were created, you brought forth the earth and the world. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God. For you turn men back to dust, saying, return to dust, O sons of men. For 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. For you sweep men away in the sleep of death. They're like the new grass. In the morning it springs up new, but by evening it is dry and withered. Our days pass away, and we finish our years with a moan. The length of our days is 70 years, or 80 if we have the strength, or 86 to be with a bit more strength to be appropriate for today. And yet those years go by so quickly, and soon we fly away. And then he gives us a word of wisdom when he says, so teach us to number our days, to recognize how few they are. Help us to spend them as we should. There's a number of songs that for those in the age group that Peggy was, are probably the number one on their hit parade in a few senses as far as a service like this is concerned. And one of those that rates right up there is the Old Rugged Cross. Let's listen now to that song being played for us.
So
Well, as we think of Peggy's life of 86 years, there's a lot of detail that could go into that. Isn't that right? She was born in Wichita Falls, Texas, December 22nd, 1927, and grew up down in Texas, graduated there from high school, did some study in business school as well, and then moved to San Antonio, Texas in 1945. In 1949, she met August, is it Filippone? Did I say that close enough? Who passed away at the age of 36 of a heart attack. No doubt that was a very, very difficult time for her to deal with, as well, as they had not been married but 11 years from the looks of things. She remarried to Clint Hooper. Later they were divorced, but she had also gone through, as the pictures back there, I'm not sure exactly the time frame of that tornado that
that was later.
Was that later that destroyed the house? My goodness, I couldn't help but think of that when I think of what took place up north for people over here as well. What devastation those times certainly are, along with her loss of her husband at that point. She loved to dance and lived in Vancouver at 1989 and worked as a bookkeeper for Kelly and did some bookkeeping for political involvement. I won't say what kind it was in case we have Democrats here, or Republicans for that matter. I'm not sure what it was, but that always seems to divide the troops, doesn't it? She retired a couple of times, went back to work, and just kept going. Had gone to Hawaii for her 70th birthday party. She loved to travel, took a Alaska cruise, went to Vegas and Albuquerque, New Mexico, loved trips to the beach and spent time in Arizona to see Patrick there. In 1989 to 96, she had a mother-in-law apartment with Susan and Larry, and then had lived in her apartment from 1996 in the past 2 years in assisted living. And when more need for further help is needed, she was able to get that, which was very, very special. She passed away in the hospital. One of her biggest loves, as the family was sharing with me, was her kids. And as a single mom for many years, she filled that role well. She loved to play cards with friends, and some of you might have some stories in regard to that, Scrabble and bingo, and loved her one grandchild as well, which is quite a tribute to her. I have some notes here that were handed me before the service, one from Peggy's youngest son, Pat, and I asked Susan if she wanted to read this, and you'll find out real soon why she said no. And she wrote one too that she does not want to read. So I'm going to do the best job I possibly can in reading some very, very touching words that go along with that. And then following that, I want to give you an opportunity. Now, these have been thought through very, very well. And we're not asking anybody, but it's often those little things in life that mean so much. And the reason why you decided to be here today, that you'd like to share by way of tribute to Peggy's memory as well. Well, this is from, as I said, Pat, Peggy's youngest son. The first thing I would like to say is thank you all for coming and being such good friends to my mother. It was very comforting to me, being so far away from her, that she had so many friends and co-workers and neighbors and caregivers looking after her, playing cards with her and keeping her safe and entertained. And maybe I should say she also kept you entertained. She loved people and playing cards and had so much fun with all of you, although she never let me hear the end of it if she lost to one of you at dice or one of her other games. I cannot thank you all enough for being there for her. There's someone I would like to say a special thank you, and that's my sister Susan. Sis, they should build a statue for all you did for your mom and for us. You have been the backbone of our family these past few years, and I can't thank you enough. I know you haven't just lost Mom, but you've lost your best friend. You should always remember how much she loved you and how proud of you she was. I may have been her baby, but you were her rock. I'm so proud and thankful to call you my sister. I don't think you could get through that. No. And now for the tough part, to say what my mom meant to me. I could speak all day about what a good person she was, the countless long hours she worked to make sure that we had everything we wanted and needed, the endless sacrifice she made for us, never asking for anything in return. She would work 10 hours a day and still go to the nursing home to take care of her mother. Through all the hardship and bad times that may have endured in our lives, she always made sure we had a home full of love, life, and laughter. We were always first in her thoughts and priorities, and that always gave me such a sense of safeness and security. She always made me feel like there was always someone there for me that I could count on and depend on. Her selflessness and kindness to others was always a shining example to me of how I should treat others with respect and kindness. I could keep on talking or writing forever about what she meant to me, but for some reason, one moment keeps coming back to me. A few years back, I lost my beloved dog Cody to cancer. And whatever anybody said or whatever I tried to do to take my mind off of him just wouldn't work. I felt so stupid being a grown man and hurting so bad over my dog. One day shortly after he had passed, I was spending the day with Mom, and she could probably see I was still upset over losing him. She asked me how I was doing, and I said, I just really miss him. And without missing a beat, she flashed her Irish blue eyes and her beautiful smile and said, you know, he misses you too. In that one moment, she knew exactly what to say, and no one else really did. It was exactly what I needed to hear, that as much as Cody meant to me, I meant as much to him. She was my mother and knew me better than I knew myself, and she knew exactly what to say to make me feel better. I'll never forget that moment. I'll never forget her and anything she taught me and sacrificed for me. I'll never meet a better person than her. I cannot believe how blessed and fortunate I was to have her as my mom. Goodbye, Mom, and you were the best. I got through it. Good job. And this is from Susan, Peggy's daughter. Everyone tells me what a good daughter I've been and how fortunate Peggy was to have me as a daughter and what good care I took of her. In my mind, I am the one who was fortunate to have such a strong, hard-working woman as a role model, such a loving, fun-filled person to raise me, to share my life with me. She loved us kids so very much. We were her life, and she was so proud of us. It was easy to take care of her because I loved her so much, and we shared so many happy times. She was not just my mom, but my friend, my travel buddy, the person who was always there for me. I can't tell you what it meant this last year to walk into Discovery and see her and have her smile and her whole face light up to see me. What unconditional love she gave me. I'm blessed to have been able to share so much of her life and have her in mine. It's a rare relationship, and I'm so very thankful. Peggy had such a beautiful smile and was loved by so many. Boy, that's evident if you look at that picture right in the middle of that poster back there. What a sweet smile. I lost my page here.
Yeah.
Here we go. Her friends kept her life full, and we are thankful to all of you for being so good to her and making her life even happier. She loved her games and cards. She loved music and could sing along with all the old songs from the 40s. And when she was young, she loved to dance at the the USO club, she danced with another redhead, and they were known as the two redheads. Even in her wheelchair, she would tap her feet along with the music. I swear, she could still keep time and shuffle her feet to do the Texas two-step, even in that chair. Mom, we had so much life and fun inside of her, and she passed it along to others. Mom stayed positive and strong despite many challenges she had to overcome and conquer in her life. An alcoholic father, polio, her mother had TB, became a widow at such a young age with 2 children, Patrick's broken neck, taking care of her mother with Alzheimer's, a tornado that destroyed her home, and then post-polio came back and dementia started. She stayed her happy life to the end and always had a smile for everyone. Peggy tried to make the best of her situation, and hard work and determination were her trademark. We are a very close family, and one of her friends recently wrote, "In my lifetime, I have not had the privilege of knowing such a family bond and loving family as you 4 people have. Oh my, how fortunate you all are." We were very fortunate to have had Peggy as our mother. We are sad that she is gone, but know that she's in such a better place, and she is whole. She can walk, she can dance, and she had her mind back. She is with her loved ones who have passed. We have many, many memories to see us through. And while our hearts ache, we will be strong and have a happy life like she would have wanted us to. Love you so much, Mom. Well, obviously, there's lots of thought that has gone into, we'll go to this other mic here. We'll get it turned on here shortly. There we go. And give you an opportunity to share some memories as well. They're often, like I say, the little things in life that have so much meaning. As one little girl had, at her grandma's funeral, she had torn off a little piece of envelope and handed it to me with the words on there. Grandma didn't go to school much, but she was a good cook, and we all have her noodle recipe. You see, it's those kind of things that are important, and obviously Patrick and Susan have put a lot of thought into it. But as you have those little vignettes into life that you'd like to share as a tribute to Peggy, we'd like to give you an opportunity. The first one's always the bravest, and it's most often a woman, so if one of you women just raise your hand. There we go, I could have told you.
Susan used to be my neighbor, but that's why I got acquainted with. But now I went down to Discovery Nursing Home and seen her there too. And she always had a smile.
Uh-huh.
And watched her play bingo and just loved that bingo. And I remember one time she said to me, she says, she didn't know who I was, my name, but
Right.
she said, "And how are the children?" And I said, "Oh, they're just fine, they're all married."
Yeah.
But she was a sweet, sweet lady, always a smile.
Yeah.
And she loved her Susan.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, nobody else has to be brave.
I just want to say that I got to see her about a week before she passed. I went to the hospital to check on my friend. And I went and walked in, and Peggy, and she had this bright orange hair. And I said, "I love your hair." Just trying to fix it. She had, poor thing, had her BiPAP on and stuff. But it was that glowing smile through the machine, and proud of her hair. And I'm very blessed that I got to see her, that smile.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Someone else? Yeah.
I'll try to get it up.
Okay. Take your time.
My son lived with me, and Peggy loved split pea soup. So every time he made split pea soup, I had to take it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, there's nothing like those special dishes, is there? I call that home food. Yeah, that's great. Someone else. Now she's got us all teared up, doesn't she? That's okay. Sure.
I'm a CNA from Discovery, and I got the pleasure of taking care of Peggy for a while, a long time. I remember when I first met her, she introduced herself, and it was a coincidence because my mother's name was also Peggy, and she also had red hair. And so I knew right away that I was just going to love her to pieces. And she was so easy to get close to. She was so warm and friendly, and there wasn't a day that I would come in there, even if I was having a bad day, that, you know, when we would see each other and she would smile, that radiant smile she had, that she could erase any negativity that I might have felt coming in. And she was always a joy. I mean, if you couldn't find her, you knew she was at an event, something going on, because she was always a part of the events, bingo and the music, and she was truly a pleasure to take care of. And to have her in my life, you know, to be a CNA is a very difficult job, especially in these kind of times.
Yeah.
And it makes you question whether you made the right choice of profession, but just meeting somebody like her makes the hard times so worth it. You know, and I will never ever forget her, never, for a moment.
Well, thank you, thank you. Are there other good caregivers here? Yes. My hat's off to you. My mother and father both spent time. My mother's 93 in a care facility. Boy, I'll tell you what, you're right. It's a tough job, but so grateful for those who care for when we're unable to always do that for our own parents. Because my mother lives in Manitoba, it's a little hard to commute.
Right.
Yeah. Someone else? Yes.
November 2001, and I was new to the Port Angeles, Washington community. My mother had met Larry and Susan along the beaches of Crescent Lake, I believe. Is that where you guys all met? And I moved to Port Angeles, and I was in town not too long, and this friendly lady came to my door, and she said, "I'm Susan, and I met your mom, and I just wanted to welcome you." And it was just a few days before Thanksgiving, and I said, "I have a place for 3 at my table," and I invited Susan and Larry and Peggy to Thanksgiving, having just met them. I would like to, if I never said, Peggy, thank you very much for that first Thanksgiving, but for many Thanksgiving to you for raising the daughter that you did. You raised a daughter from the old traditions of the old Rugged Cross generations, where commitment and friendship and loving and caring for good and not for good, for the laughter, for the tears, for the working together for such a lovely daughter, that she wouldn't be the lady she is if Peggy hadn't been her mother. And so I am thankful from that day, and I am more than ever thankful for raising such a loving daughter, and it's because she had such a loving mom. And Peggy, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Super. Anybody else? Well, people have often asked me, what can we do at a time like this? One of the things you can do is to keep those memories alive. And my father's been gone since '99, and when I go home to Canada and people ask me, oh, I remember your dad when such and such took place. Guess what? That's still comforting to me. Probably, well, one of the poems that talk about life in a very realistic sort of a way. Linda Ellis has written this poem, and you've probably heard it before. It's just entitled The Dash, and Susan asked that I use it. And it goes like this. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of his friend. He spoke of the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of her birth, and spoke of the following date with tears, but he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth, and now only those who love her know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way other people feel and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love those people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that our special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? I like that little poem. It speaks so well of life, doesn't it? If you want a copy of it, just go to Google and type in the dash. If you don't know what Google is, find a kid somewhere. But it pops up, and then she has all kinds of pictures along with it. And it really says it well, I think, because life is so important, and we only get one shot at it, don't we, in life? One time around. As this young lady at CNA was speaking, I couldn't help but think of last time I went up to see my mother, and I asked if there's anything I could do to help them in caring for my mother, since I don't get there that often. And they said, well, we do have one complaint about Sadie. I said, really, what's that? They said, well, when the help goes into her room, they take much too long. And I said, oh, really? Is she so messy? No. She's always asking about the family and wanting to know what she can pray for them for and things like that. And I said, well, I don't think I can fix that. And they said, we don't want you to. You see, when somebody makes a difference in our lives, it makes a lot of difference, doesn't it? And we want to be those kind of people that are change agents in this world. We read a lot of people in the newspaper that are going in and out of jail, and that's not the best kind of news to have, is it? But it's so good to hear of many times the unheralded people who are there caring for other people in very special ways. That psalm that is used so often at a time like this, and I would like to share it again with you just briefly, is that what I call the 23rd Psalm, the Shepherd's Psalm. It's about sheep and a shepherd. My neighbor has some sheep, and I don't think when the Bible talks about those who are followers of Jesus as sheep, it's necessarily the biggest compliment in the world, because sheep are dumb animals. And I watch my neighbor's sheep. I've got cattle, they're much smarter. But sheep, not so much. And they really need a shepherd. They need someone that's there for them to help keep them out of trouble. And I can't help but think of that relates to a mother and the care that she gives as well. For David said, the Lord is my shepherd. One little girl was trying to memorize that chapter, and her mother said, do you have it down, honey? She said, yes, I do. She said, well, say it to me. And she said, God's my shepherd, that's all I want, and that's all I need to know. Well, that's not quite the whole thing, but she has one word there that's very important, and that's the little word, my. In English language, we call it a possessive pronoun, right? You don't have to teach that word to little boys, just two little boys. Give them one truck, right? That word will come out. That's mine. I saw it first. That's why it's hard today, because you can read about Joe Blow in the newspaper and read his obituary, and it doesn't affect you, but you read about my mother, my grandmother, my friend, and it's all of a sudden a different story. And you rearrange your schedule and you make sure that you can be there for a memorial service. That's pretty special. Well, David talked about his shepherd that way. And he talked about all the wonderful things a shepherd does for him, making him lie down in green pastures, leading him beside still waters. I've been to Israel a number of times, and finding green pastures isn't all that easy. It takes work. And when I think of what a single mother does to care for her family when she's left all alone to provide for them, that takes work. And green pastures are hard to find in that regard. Leading beside still waters. Sheep don't like drinking out of fast-moving streams, because if they were to fall in, they would definitely drown when the wool gets soaked up with water and so on, and their spindly little legs would turn them over. And so the shepherd needs to find and dam up a little area that makes it still water so the sheep can drink in comfort. And it's adding that little special thing to it. The little special details of life that make family life what it is in a happy home. It leads me beside still water, restores my soul, encourages me in the down times of life, leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. If I jump over a verse, he speaks about the rod and staff, which are a comfort to me. Now, the staff was one of those things that often got the sheep out of trouble, but the rod was there for some correction that was necessary. Now, my mother's not much older than your mother, and I grew up in an era where they still believed in loving discipline, where you had to take some meals standing up because sitting down was a bit uncomfortable. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, well, now that's child abuse, and we just build more jails to take care of those children that are non-abused, that don't know how to respect law and order and discipline in the home. David talked about loving discipline was that which gave me comfort, because I knew where the boundaries were, and they were set up and made sure that they were there. That's a loving part of life, isn't it? David was comforted by the fact that his God was one, his shepherd was one who cared for him in that special sort of way. You prepare a table before me. I presume she did a few of those, didn't she? Prepared some tables with some special foods that were really special. In fact, later on, as in my particular situation, as I would go home to visit my mother, she'd say, "What would you like me to fix for you?" Well, some of you know what I'm talking about, right? You go home and there's those special dishes that you remember growing up. And how about some of this, you know? And we had our special dishes that were a part of that. And then there were some that weren't so special that we just as soon as you forgot the recipe for that one. But nonetheless, those were special times of sitting around the table. Nowadays, we don't do much of that. We sit with our iPhone in one, kids do in one hand and watch TV in the other and grab something quick out of the freezer to throw in